everybody, it's just me, Alchemist 2 again. This is just an update on what I've been up to. I got a request for finding the lyrics to a song from Little Norse Prince Valiant, and I looked everywhere. I scoured the web, I tried to do what I could, and unfortunately, what I know of Japanese is extremely limited, so sadly I wasn't able to find what the translation was. So to those who had requested that from me, I feel a little bit bad, and I'm really sorry I wasn't able to find that. I just feel terrible that I couldn't find it. I even asked a friend of mine who was originally from Indonesia, and he couldn't even translate it for me. So, I tried. That's all that matters. I wanted to express some projects that I'm working on currently. I finished Turnabout recently, and I know that Dante kind of reminds me of Spike from Power Rangers Samurai in a way. And honestly, if there were an actor to play his role, it would definitely be Felix Ryan. Agent H, I'm not really sure who would play her, but she would be multiracial. I like to have different cast of characters involved with every one of my scripts that I write, what I have in mind. Of course, I've never seen any of these actually come to fruition. These are all just ideas on paper, but my ambition is one day they will be shown on a silver screen. Of course, they would have to be indie film, but one day, and this is my hope and my aspiration, is to see these works on silver screen and to inspire people through them. And this is my mock poster, of course. It's called Finding the Center. It's a romantic, spiritual comedy that I'm working on currently, and my main character's name is Charlie Wu. Actually, he's a doctor. He's a holistic doctor, and the yoga instructor that he falls for. Oh, spoiler alert! Sorry. Her name is Hannah. I will be working on a series. One of them is based on the planet Lux, which is a different sort of place in the universe, and they're pacifists, and they they are aliens that have kind of a higher understanding of everything in the universe, and they're very interesting, and their style can be considered as Asiatic. I'm writing a guide to what they look like and how they behave, and the flora and fauna of Lux, and their religious system, and the ambassadors are the most intriguing characters. And actually, my main character, Regina Cessatina Pia III, she is the one who tells the story that I'm working on, and the tale itself is it's got an exceedingly long title. It's basically called Incomprehensible, Inconceivable, Otherwise Impossible. And the subtitle for that particular project, it's called Memoir of a Lux Ambassador, and that talks about how her sister Romalia was probably one of the first ambassadors who came from Lux, and she fell in love with a human being on Earth who worked for CERN, and she was trying to help him with his his equation for breaching space-time. And of course, it's not uncommon for the Lux themselves. They've actually been helping human beings, and you can see their thumbprints throughout all of history, like the Mayan temples and Atlantis and Lemuria. they helped build many of those places, and the glyphs that you see in places like the Chichen Itza, actually they were responsible for the glyph system, because the Maya really didn't have any writing system before them, but the Lux they inspired the Maya to do that. And it's interesting that you could see how the Lux have integrated themselves into our own um, society. And my main character, she she loses a little bit of hope later on in the story I'm writing. It's already 8 pages that I have, but I'm not going to say what happens to her sister. It's actually very, very, very tragic, but um, I actually wrote that out of a tragedy that I had gone through myself. I put it into different kind of perspective, and you know, was trying to think how would someone from Lux handle it, because they don't really understand the concept of war or anger. They are a very mellow race, and they don't handle things with anger or war or violence. They don't function that way. Um, they are very generous, kind, and they're understanding, and they're warm and friendly, and probably the most congenial of all species. And Lux is actually a really stunningly beautiful planet. It's just a golden planet. They call it the golden planet for a reason. And the skies are golden, and the clouds in the sky. There are hardly ever any clouds except when it rains. And of course, after rain, there are triplicate rainbows. And there are 3 moons in the sky, and I actually wrote about the 3 moons. They're named after the patrons that were responsible for creating. This is their creation myth, but I'll get to that later. But it's very complicated, and it's very involved. But Regina's character is kind of based off of me, and I know it's kind of, I shouldn't say that I'm egotistical, but I kind of based her off of myself. And Ramalia, or Rem as she's called, I based her off of my mother. Um, and it's interesting to see what happens. I'm getting to the point of reconciliation within writing that story, and it's actually helping me get through a lot of emotions that I've had concerning my mom's death, and help me work through that, and it's been very good catharsis. So I'm working on this, and among the other things that I've been doing, I've gotten into the reboot of Doctor Who. I started watching the 3rd season. Last episode that I watched was Blink, which is one of my favorite episodes of the 3rd season, other than Being Human and Family of Blood, both of which made me cry like a little baby. I loved Blink because this is the episode where we're introduced to the Weeping Angels, and it was just exceptional, and miraculously entertaining. And one of my favorite lines is when Sally Sparrow is talking back to the DVD egg extra with the doctor in it, and the doctor's trying to explain time as a non-linear substance, and actually it's constructed out of wibbly wobbly timey wimey stuff, and I just cracked up at that because I love that line. And the thing I laughed at was, people don't quote this one, but I would love to use it. It's he has this thing. It looks like kind of a tape recorder, one of those retro tape recorders from the 70s and 80s. They're like a reel, like we would use in an interrogation. And he says this is his timey-wimey detector, and he says I can't really have it around chickens or eggs because when I do they tend to explode, so I have to be careful around hens as well, lest they go off. And I don't know what it was about that, but for some strange reason I guffawed. I literally was laughing my rear end off of that, because it was one of the funniest things I ever heard. I have yet to watch the remainder of season 3, which I will do. I have been watching Transformers Rescue Bots, Walking Dead. I want to get into the Game of Thrones because actually my friend Jan said if you like Gladiator, Lord of the Rings, and that kind of fantasy, you're going to absolutely love it. And I said I have to watch this because I've always been entranced with the medieval era and just the understanding of it. And it's the storytelling that comes from particularly Arthurian legend because my grandfather, coincidentally enough, was named Arthur, and I have just so much honor and respect and just awe with that legend, and just having someone in my family with that name is awesome. And I just have to say that I'm honored to have somebody close to me that was considered to be worthy of that name. I've been watching Once Upon a Time, loving it. Grimm as well. Um, what else? Dan Versus, of course. Napoleon Dynamite, the cartoon series. Family Guy. I'm kind of losing interest in Family Guy, like I did with The Simpsons, which is really tragic because I used to be a huge, I mean, big fan since I was 10 years old. I fell in love with The Simpsons and kind of understood the cultural overtones, even though I was really too young to do so. And the innuendo and satirical nature of the entire show. And other than that, I really don't have that much to report, other than to those who wrote to me again about the lyrics and the whole idea with that, and your request. I feel like a real heel because I just feel so inept and inadequate, but I wasn't able to find diddly squat. But again, like I said, I tried, and that's all that really matters. And I'm sorry I wasn't able to help you with your lyrics. And I tried consulting the internet and researching and seeing what I could find, but alas, to no avail. Oh, and another thing I wanted to mention is I am recently gotten I've recently fallen head over heels with the Hunger Games, as you probably would have figured because I've mentioned it before, and I don't mean to sound like a broken record. I'm reading the second book, Catching Fire, and I can't put it down, and I'm hoping that I finish it tomorrow and that I can get into Mockingjay. So I want to see how it ends, and I'm hoping to heaven and to God Almighty that Hollywood will be smart and do make both of those green light them. I haven't really read anything about that, but Dark Horizons is my go-to place for that, and I keep apprised of everything. That's how I knew that there was going to be a Three Stooges film before anybody ever mentioned anything about it, and amongst other things. So they are extremely reliable source, and another good one is coming soon, but Dark Horizons that's where I would go, and they have really great reviews with the actors, and you can just see what they're up to and how what they're taking care of at the moment and what they're involved with, and it's really interesting to see that. So if you get a chance to do it, go there and check it out, because I came upon it just by pure happenstance, but it has been my my accurate site that I can go to for great information. So that's all I leave you with today. So I shall see you this weekend, and I will be seeing Wrath of the Titans, and I am so excited because if you've watched my reviews before, you know that I am a immense fan of Greek mythology. So I'm like a little kid in a candy shop, and I can't wait. So here's hoping it's good and even better than the first. We shall see. Check you around.